equations and formulas. This is going to be basically dealing with more than one variable in a problem, solving for a specific variable, not just solving when you're dealing with numbers and one variable. We've been doing the single variable equations only so far, where you only have one variable that you're solving for. We're now going to be dealing with equations that have 2, 3, 4, however many variables it has, plus the numbers mixed in, and you have to solve for a specific variable. Things are a little bit different when they set up like this, so we need to talk about how to approach them, the orders and all those things. So as we go through this, we'll talk all about those things that you need to worry about putting them in order, how to write it, all those good things. And we will write it in specific ways because it has to do with what's called, anybody ever heard of slope-intercept form for a line? A couple of y'all? Yeah. So we're going to kind of prepare you for doing that. Slope-intercept form is the equation of a line. And we're going to be writing a lot of things in that and solving into that. And so the way we write things has a lot to do with finding the slope that we're going to graph with later on. And so it's really important that we kind of stick to the way that we write these things. So let's get started and start solving. So you can see that they have to tell you what variable you're solving for. They can do it individually for each problem, or there might be a set of directions at the top of a section that says solve each problem for A. Okay, it just depends on the problem. Each one of these asks for you to solve for a different variable, so you have to be careful to solve for the variable they are asking for. Each one of these asks for a different one. In this case, actually, these two both ask for B. But we've got Y, X, and B that they're asking us to solve for. For this first one for Y, our goal is to get the Y by itself. We treat it just like any other equation. We treat Y like it's the one we're trying to get by itself. And so to undo this multiplication, we would divide both sides by 5. That would cancel out that 5 in front, leave the Y by itself. Now the way we write this is going to be a little bit different because this is a linear equation. And this would be slope-intercept form. Instead of writing x over 5, what number is in front of your x? 1. So we're going to write this as 1/5 x. If anybody knows anything about slope-intercept form, this is y equals mx. There's no b because it goes to the origin. So this slope right here is going to be what we graph with. So writing that in the form of a fraction or as a whole number is going to be extremely important. You cannot just leave 5 underneath your variable. Okay. For the next one, we're going to try to solve for x. Now we have x's on both sides. We have to get all the x's to one side. Since we have g's over here also, we want to get the x away from that g so that all the x's are on the opposite side. Even though the x on the other side is smaller, you want to get everything away from the g. That's going to be by itself over here. We want the x's over here. So we're going to minus 4x, minus 4x. The goal is to get that. Now you can do it the other way. It's just more steps. Okay? It's not necessarily wrong. Bring down that, cancel that out. You bring down the opposite of g equals. And then when you do 1x minus 4x, you're going to get negative 3x. We still need to isolate the x all by itself. Our goal is to get that completely by itself, so we still need to undo this multiplication, which we will divide both sides by negative 3. Alright, this cancels out. We get just x on this side. Now, a negative divided by a negative makes this into a positive. And how would we write the fraction in front of here? 1/3 g. Perfect. 1/3 g. 1/3 g. Okay. So far, because those are both linear equations, guys, those could both be graphed. You're going to use that to find slope and the y-intercept. Those are really, really important as we go forward. Chapter 5, we do actually a lot of what we do going forward is going to be about linear equations. But chapter 5 is really heavy on it. Does anybody see anything on 1 or 2 so far? Great, let's keep going. The next one is going to be solving for example number 3 for B. Since we've got A and C as well, we want to get that B on the side all by itself, so we need this C to move to the other side. So we're going to minus 12C, minus 12C. That gets rid of that addition right there. That makes it 5b equals. Now, when you list out variables and there's more than one, you cannot put them together when you're adding and subtracting, but what you can do is put them in alphabetical order. Alphabetical order would make this 9a minus 12c. 9a minus 12c. Okay. You're then going to divide everything by 5. We divide them individually because we're going to put it in what's similar to, it's not, but similar to something that looks like a slope-intercept form. This one has an extra variable, but we're building up to that concept, so we're going to try to stay with the same concept. So write these as fractions in front of your variables. That's going to be 9/5 a minus 12/5 c. Make sure those variables go in the middle, not at the bottom, not at the top. They're at the middle next to the bar. Yes.
Can you take a bar and do that?
Yes, if it can be, you would, but those can't. When we get to one, if there is one that'll do it, we absolutely need to do that. For the next one, we're trying to get to that b, but it's stuck up in this fraction. We had some that look like this. They just happen to have a number and a variable up here, but we've done this before. This is not new. You're going to take and you're going to multiply both sides by 3. That cancels. That's going to give us a minus b equals, and 3 times c is 3c. We've done that before, we just didn't have the exact same thing on the top. Now, because we want the b all by itself, the a is the thing that needs to move over here, so we're going to minus a minus a. That's how you get rid of a positive a, is to subtract a from both sides. Now, the biggest thing on this, my biggest concern on this is the order, that you put it in the correct order. It's the opposite of b equals. These must be in alphabetical order. So when you write this out, the a has to come first. So you write the opposite of a. And then since the 3 is positive, what do you put in front of the 3c? Plus 3c. That's how you would write that. You still have a negative sign in front of your variable. You cannot leave that there, so you're going to divide everything by -1 or multiply it by -1, guys. It doesn't matter. Dividing just looks easier for me because I can just go like that. It can be multiplying by -1 or dividing by -1. It doesn't matter. That's going to allow me to rewrite the final answer as b equals. Now, guys, when you're dividing by -1, is that going to make a fraction? No. It's just going to change the sign. So this changes to a positive a. Oop, that doesn't look like an a. Hold on. Kind of jumped on me. A. And then the 3 divided by -1 is going to give us a -3c or minus 3c, however you see it. Both are the same thing. Now, guys, I'm hoping you're seeing why when I said you need to write out the steps, it matters. If you leave the variable off when you move stuff, it's going to get messed up. You're going to lose stuff. You can't just skip writing things, especially when there's 3 and 4 variables and things. It just doesn't work. So we've got 2 more that are going to be like this, and then we've got 2 that deal with the distributive property going backwards, which is basically factoring, just to make sure that you understand how to do those as well. And then we've got a couple of word problems. So let's keep going. There we go. And ask. If you get somewhere where you don't get it, ask, guys. Now, this is a linear equation where we're solving for y. This is something called standard form. It's ax plus by equals c. If anybody's seen that before, it's the equation of a line. We're going to solve it for y, which means we're going to be putting it in slope-intercept form. So it's really important that you write this in the correct way. So to get y by itself, we're going to get the 3x to go to the other side. Since it's positive, we're going to minus 3x from both sides. That's going to bring down 4y equals, what goes in front, guys? The variable. When you have a variable term and a non-variable term, the variable term must go in front. And because the 18 is positive, it needs a plus in front of it. Because the variable is positive, it needs a plus in front of it. The last step on this is to get the y all by itself, so we divide each term by 4. These are going to have one that reduces on here, so it's a good chance for us to see that. That 4 is going to cancel. We get y equals negative 3/4, and the x goes behind it. Again, the x goes in the middle, right by the line, not on top, not on bottom. That's because this is going to be your slope when we eventually get to graphing with this. The other part of it is your y-intercept, so we're going to put plus. Now we do need to reduce it. If you need to use your calculators, do it. 18 fraction button 4 equals second fraction button. You can also just divide the top and bottom by 2. It should put you at, what, 9/2? Now, there's different ways to do this next one. Y'all tend to like to get rid of the fraction first, so I'm going to do that. You're going to have to move the h to the other side no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply everything by 5 to get rid of that denominator. That means the problem has no more fractions. It's going to be 4x plus 5h equals 5e. Since we're trying to get the x by itself, the h needs to go to the other side, so we're going to minus 5h minus 5h. It's going to make it 4x. Now these cancel out, so you're left with, which one goes in front, guys? E. Alphabetically, E comes first, so it's going to be 5e minus 5h. The last step that you're going to deal with is to divide. What number are we dividing by? 4. Perfect. We're going to divide everything by 4. Divide by 4. When you divide everything by 4, that cancels out the number that's in front of your x. It brings down just x by itself, which is what our whole goal is, to solve for x and put x on a side all by itself. And that's going to leave you 5/4 e minus 5/4 h. And again, there's a reason we're writing that way and not leaving it where it's got like the number across the whole bottom. You'll see when we're allowed to use that where it goes across the whole bottom when you're dividing by something that's got a plus or minus on the bottom. You can absolutely do it underneath everything and put it all the way across. But when it's like a number, you need to separate it and put it under each one. Okay. Anything before we do our last two of these with the factoring in it before we get to the word problems? Okay, here we go. These are the next two. So, we cannot combine the AX and the BX. We cannot do that. The AX and the BX and the BX are going to be connected because they both have an X, but we cannot add two different variables connected to that x. That's not possible. So we need to factor that x out. Like I talked about, it's basically like distributive property going backwards. Okay? So to take that x out, we are going to take and divide both these by x and put it out in front. So I'm going to write the x out in front of our parentheses, and I'm going to divide both of these by x. Instead of multiplying where you distribute it across, we're taking it out. So when I divide them both by x, that's going to cancel the x out of this one. That's going to leave me a. That's going to cancel the x out of this one. That's going to leave me b. And then the other side still just says c. Now, we're trying to get x by itself. Because we're trying to get x by itself, we are going to divide by everything that is not x that's multiplied by it right here. So we're dividing by this whole thing, which is a plus b. Now listen, you've got to learn when you need parentheses and when you don't. This is a very good chance for you to see it. We have parentheses around it because the x is multiplied times the a plus b. When I write it underneath, is it multiplied times anything? No, so it doesn't need the parentheses. Doesn't need them. There's nothing multiplied on the outside of it. So you have to write a plus b under here. And if you write a plus b under this side, you got to write A plus B under this side. Whatever you do to one side, you got to do the same thing to the other side. All we're doing, guys, is basically taking the x out, putting the x out in front, doing distributive property backwards. That's what we're doing. Alright? It's called factoring. We do a lot of it second semester. This whole thing cancels out. We get x equals. Now, when it has a plus or minus on the bottom, like I said, you're allowed to leave it as one long fraction, like that. Any questions, any concerns, anything about that one? Yes. Say it one more time. You gotta.
Why is the A plus B on the bottom?
Because we divided by it. It wasn't on the top to start off with, and when you divide by it, it's got to stay on the bottom. Absolutely. Now see on these, I think what you're talking about is like ones like this. See where our x is on this one? It's actually on the top. So really what this is negative 3 over 4 times x over 1. So it's really on the top, which means you can write it as just x. So it's negative 3/4 x, where it's in the middle, because that doesn't need the 1 underneath it. That's really what this is before you rewrite it. Okay? Now this one, however, is different because on this one, the a plus b is actually on the bottom. It is not on the top. It is actually 1 over a plus b that's on the bottom of that. So it can't move to the side. It's not on the top of it. It's got to stay on the bottom. It's a good question. Anybody else? If it's on the bottom, it's different than being on the top. Okay. Last one of these before we go to our word problem. Same concept, guys. We're basically trying to take this x out of each one of these. We're going to put that x out in front. If I divide both of them by x, this kind of throws people. You can't just cancel this out. If I cancel the x out here, what's left in the first spot? What was it? What's this spot, guys? What's left right here? D. What do I put in the other spot if both of them cancel out? 0. If you divide anything by itself, what do you get? 1. 1. It's going to be 1. Good concept. It's both those are good questions, good answers. You got to just, if it was subtraction, it would be that. If it was addition where it had a negative and positive, it would be that. But because it's division, that's when it cancels out. That's going to be a 1. Good. And that equals E. We do the same thing we did on the other side to get the x by itself. We're going to divide by that whole parentheses. Again, you don't write parentheses around it when there's nothing multiplied by it. You've got to get out of doing that. You can't just randomly put parentheses on things, guys. That cancels. We get the x all by itself on this side, and on the other side we get E over D plus 1. Questions, concerns, anything about this? Oh, and I got the A team up for in here. Good job on that test, guys. Truly, much better on that test. So good job. Anybody see anything before we go to the ones that were our word problems? Okay, guys. If you can't tell, there's going to be word problems on this test because there's been word problems in every set of notes. So you are going to have them on there. They're definitely going to be a part of what we have on this upcoming test. So here we go. Okay, the formula for the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. Take a minute and recopy that formula. It is a capital A equals a lowercase l and a lowercase w. I write my L like that because it looks like a 1 if I don't, guys. If you can make your L look like an L instead of a 1, you can write it like a regular L. L represents your length, W represents your width. They want you to solve for they want you to solve for W by moving your L. So to get that W by itself, this is multiplication. What are we going to divide both sides by? L. L. That cancels out. We get area over length is equal to width. Now, why would they have us solve for that? Well, it depends on what information they give you that you want to plug in. And whenever you're trying to find the width, if you had to find it over and over again, this would be really easy formula-wise to use, because you know that the width, W, equals, and it says the area, which it says the area right here of this shape is going to be 324 square feet. So we're going to put 324 where the area goes. That's on top. And then it says the length of it is 12 feet for this rectangle. So we put 12 on the bottom. And then it's just an arithmetic problem, guys. It's just 324 divided by 12. Divide that out, see what you get. 27, so your answer would be 27, but what is the units for the width? Now you got to look back at the length. Don't look at the area, because that's square units. When you're looking back, you need to look at the length unit, and the length unit is feet. That's the unit that needs to go on your answer, because it's just like the length. The width has a unit of feet. We got another one. I think I use a volume formula on this next one. This is our last one? This pair of them? We got an A and a B. Is that it? Okay, here we go. So one more of these to practice working on through a formula. It's the same stuff, guys. It just happens to be called a formula. It's the exact same thing as the other problems we were doing. So here we go. Volume equals pi r squared h. And we want to solve for h. Now this is all multiplication, so it's easy. To undo multiplication, you are just going to divide by everything you don't want. So we don't want there to be a pi there, so we're going to divide both sides by pi. We don't want there to be an r squared there, so we're going to divide both sides by r squared. So we're dividing both sides by pi and r squared, because what my goal is to get the h by itself, because it said solve for h. So I am going to divide this pi out. I'm going to divide the r squared out, so that the only thing left on this side is h. Then on the other side, I'm just going to rewrite it where the volume is on the top, and on the bottom you're going to have pi, that's a pi, if I could get it to write, r squared. Pi r squared. The volume divided by pi r squared. If you don't know what pi r squared is, that's the area of a circle. So volume divided by the area of a circle is going to give us the height of a cylinder. So we've got a cylindrical pool that has a radius of 12 feet, so they're giving us the radius. It has a volume of 1,810 cubic feet, feet cubed, cubic feet, however you want to say that. That means it's going to be something that's actually three-dimensional that you're measuring. You're measuring the water that's inside there is my guess. They're trying to find the space inside of it. And then it says use 3.14 for pi and round to the nearest foot. Well, we're going to start with our formula, since we're looking for that height when we're working backwards. So we're going to say height equals, the volume is going to go on top, so which one of these numbers goes on top? 1810. Perfect. 1810. The next thing is going to be pi, which it told us to use 3.14 for pi, so we're going to do 3.14 times, and then it said times the radius squared, and the radius in this case is which number? 12, so times 12 squared. Okay, we need to talk about how to type this in on your calculator. So grab your calculators. Okay, now when you do this problem, you're going to do them separate pieces. The top doesn't have anything to do to it. Just rewrite the 1810 before we do the multiplication on the bottom. Go ahead and do the 1810. Write that out. Okay. The bottom is 3.14 times 12, and then hit the square button. So you would type 3 and then the decimal points, then 1, 4, then you're going to hit the times 12, and then you're going to hit the square button, which looks like this, X with the little 2 on it, and then you're going to hit equals. That's like all the keystrokes, so you can see exactly how you would type it out. 3.14 times 12 squared equals. What does that give you for the bottom? I don't know, I don't have that step on here. What was it? 452.16. Do we have any confirmation on that? Yes? Okay. Does anybody need to type the other one again? Need to type through that again? We're all good on that? Okay, the last step when you have a fraction like this is to type it as division, because they asked us specifically to round the answer to the nearest foot. The nearest foot means the nearest whole number, so we're not going to have any decimals left. But you actually have to divide it to get it to give you the decimal for this. So go ahead and do 1810 divided by 452.16. Hit equals. Now on the calculator, what does that give you? Give me the first two numbers. 4.0 is all I need. So 4.0 makes it really easy, because a 4 with a 0 after it is going to stay the same, so your answer is going to be 4 and then whatever unit you need. What is the unit that goes with the measurements that are not the actual volume? What unit would I put on here? What's the radius, guys? Feet. Radius is feet, so this is going to be feet. Okay, when you're working backwards in those kind of formulas, you're not doing the square units, not doing the cubic units, it's the regular units. Okay guys, that's your notes for today. Go ahead and put that in your folders, and then take out your homework assignment.